Sponsored by Squarespace. Last time in World of Warcraft, we sucked the blue man into the Dark Heart, had Zal pull a truly shocking switcheroo on us, and found out that Locust Walker's wraps are not flame retardant. We also heard this.
When next we meet, I will take everything you love.
Not only has Xal'atath added the strongest void god to her little collection of essence, she's also made it abundantly clear she will be pressuring Alleria, so it's hardly a coincidence that patch 11.27, The Warning, begins with Alleria's sister Vereesa and her son Artor. Now, Vereesa has been getting visions, basically her own private teaser trailer for Midnight. And by the end of all of this, we will see how Blizzard have placed their pieces on the board for Midnight, and how you can place your pieces on a digital board with today's sponsor. Squarespace is an easy-to-use site builder and award-winning templates, but they have developed so much as a platform lately. Design Intelligence is their mix of tools that help you access their 20 years of design experience easily. It starts with Blueprint AI, and that starts with a few questions. Once you answer those, you'll use their interactive design system to build your own template, just the way that you like it, but with them keeping you right, with designer-picked fonts and color palettes, all matched to your aesthetic, and then from there, you can iterate on your copy and your content. It's all seamlessly integrated, and if you've just been overwhelmed in the past, or you just want to start quickly with all of your bases covered, this set of features is literally made for you. And their core platform is always growing as well. They've got native video support, so you can have a gorgeous player, you can have video gallery layouts that are all interoperable with their e-commerce tools. It's real impressive, and when I needed sites, Squarespace was my first port of call because they make it easy. So to get started today, go to squarespace.com/BellularGaming, check out Design Intelligence, and when you're ready to send your site live, use code BellularGaming for 10% off your first purchase of a site or domain. Those visions have led her to Khazalgar, and that is when we enter the picture. Though, when we arrive, things first turn to the sentimental. We are, after all, in and around the ruins of Dalaran. And believe me, the sentimental does actually matter here. You see, while Artor is Alleria's son, Alleria and his father Turalyon disappeared for a long time, years before Warcraft even started. That meant that while Vereesa and her husband were aunt and uncle to Artor, realistically, they were his parents. They are the people who raised him. This is all taking place on the ruins of Dalaran. That is where Vereesa and her husband used to live, and of course, her husband was in fact the leader of Dalaran's Council of Six. Was. So naturally, our trio go to pay their respects. And once that happens, well, you get the titular warning.
Ronan. Vereesa!
Artor? Where are you? No! The screams! The horror! Stop! It's too much! I cannot bear to see this! Stop! Stop! No!
Shalna! Come back!
Those visions sure look spooky, but it's no time for analysis because the Twilight's blade have just struck. This is hardly a surprise. You see, the first time we met Xal'atath, back in Legion, she was using the Twilight's hammer, since renamed, to crack open Tyr's tomb and get an old god lieutenant's essence, only for us to march in and prove far more powerful, and, of course, a more useful mark for her. She, of course, did get to slurp up her essence, something that she does enjoy doing. I suppose it's endearing that all these years later, the Twilights are still loyal. They are, of course, also rather weak. They go down easily, and with that done, it's time for the group to huddle and have a chat about what they've all seen.
My visions are still difficult to parse, but it's clear that they are a warning. Xal'atath intends to lay siege to Azeroth.
We must tell my mother. No one has more experience fighting Xal'atath than she does.
That is precisely why she will not return. Alleria prefers to chase her quarry to the ends of existence.
And if Silvermoon comes under attack?
Then she would have even more reason to stay away. Her link to the Void makes her a danger to the Sunwell.
Then, what about Sylvanas?
Though few agree with me, I believe Sylvanas would do everything in her power to defend our home. But she has been condemned to the Maw until her penance is complete.
I can't just stand idle and wait for Xal'atath to strike. I have to at least speak with my mother.
I know, Artor. I will wait for you in Dornegal. We can journey to Silvermoon after you find Alleria.
Thank you, Aunt Vereesa. I'll return as soon as I can.
That may be sooner than you like, but I do hope you succeed.
It's clear something bad will happen to Silvermoon. In Arator's mind, we need the Windrunners back, and not just Vereesa. So, it's off to Tazavesh with Artor, and while we and him hunt down Alleria, how about we go and decode Vereesa's vision? So first in it, we see the people that she loves falling to the Void. We see Silvermoon in chaos, the Sindorai torn apart by Void monstrosities, screams, horror, standard apocalypse fare, but it is her personal apocalypse as well. It's her home, it's where she came from, it's her people, it's connected to her family, but then it all is okay because the light arrives. Her brother-in-law, Turalyon, Lothraxion, Liadrin, you'd think this is the cavalry coming, and per the big cinematic trailer for Midnight, it is the cavalry coming. But it's also a bit more than that, because the vision shifts, and suddenly, the characters who were radiant in light appear engulfed, consumed by light. This is referencing light blindness, which is the fanaticism that can come whenever devotion curdles into something far more dangerous and potentially more dark. We've seen hints of it before, and the big question for you as a player going into this story is this an intrinsic property of the light being expressed through these people, or is it their character traits being fully revealed by the power of the light? I wonder which. Next in the vision, we see Umbric and Ramath at each other's throats. Void Elf fighting Blood Elf. Umbric wins, and as he does, he changes. Perhaps to win, he took on the power of the Void, which would be a little bit grim, but he metamorphoses into something that looks a bit like a Demon Hunter. And if you're wondering whether that's a tease for the new Void Elf Demon Hunter spec, well, yes, it is. But in an ideal world, I should be fighting on our side. Then, though, we got our final shot. Alleria, Lorthmar, Arator, the player, all falling into an endless pit of void as Vereesa screams. So, no wonder she's shaken. And having seen all of that, she's effectively got a vision of what's about to happen. Perhaps a little bit like when a certain hobbit picked up a certain palantir and got a glimpse at the enemy's plan. Now, in that story, much of why Sauron is defeated is because he fundamentally cannot empathize with and understand the actions of a lot of our mortal characters. Of course, in this situation with Xal'atath, we'll really be asking ourselves the same. And that's because Xal'atath plans to leverage love against our main cast of characters, to use that love to force them into doing stupid things. Emotions are strong, and Xal'atath appears to have a deep understanding of how both light and void operate. Because remember, Xal'atath knows a hell of a lot about the light as well. Back in Legion, when we carried her as a dagger, she did say to us that the Naru were long-lost brethren. Now, I can't count on Vereesa knowing all the lore explanation stuff that I just said, but with what she did see, yeah, no wonder she is shaken. But enough of that for now, because we finally found Alleria.
Is this true? Vereesa had a vision of Azeroth being attacked?
Yes. The vision wasn't quite clear, but she said some of the buildings resembled Silvermoon. If Quel'Thalas is in danger, it is our family's responsibility to defend it.
Artor, I'm exiled from Silvermoon. My mere presence would place the Sunwell in danger. This is where I need to be. Hunting Xal'atath's lieutenants and tearing her secrets from their minds.
Alleria doesn't want to return to her homeland, and she's actually absolutely right. You see, here's what happened the last time she got too close to the Sunwell. It's not good. And it's huge leverage for Xal'atath. You see, Alleria knows Xal'atath will be out to kill her family. She knows her family will be defending Quel'Thalas, her son Artor, her husband Turalyon. And she also knows she can't return to Quel'Thalas, because if she did, the void inside her would make the whole situation far worse. But as much as that does make sense, Artor still finds it hard to grasp that his mother won't return.
What's so important here that you can't return to Azeroth? Even Umbric has recalled the Riftwalkers.
All the more reason for me to remain. After Locust Walker, few can hunt the prey I'm after, and fewer still can extract their knowledge. It has to be me.
Umbric and Alleria are both tied to the void, but Umbric doesn't have a dark Naru worth of the void bouncing around inside him. But it obviously goes deeper than that, given Locust Walker. She's just got someone who is a mentor to her killed, all because she essentially had the blinkers on. So she's afraid of getting her family killed, and in her mind, it would be easier to carry the entire burden herself. Well, fear and fate are funny things. Blizzard gave Alleria a new line in the War Within recap. It is, I must say, as ham-fisted a line as I have ever heard, but it does at least help make the plotline clear.
You blame yourself? Alleria, that wasn't your fault.
I could have stopped it all if I had given in to the void as I am fated to.
Yeah, now that you've heard it, ham-fisted may be underselling it. Now, this is a new line that was added in, that she says in reference to losing Dalaran. And at the time she said this line, she thought Khadgar, a very old and close friend, was dead, and she obviously felt guilty. Now sure, she'd have done more DPS if she gave in to the void, but I think we all know that wouldn't work. But think about this from her perspective. That was on her mind. And then look what happened with Locust Walker. And now her son is here. That's a lot of emotional toil for her to go through right now, and that isn't even considering how she'll feel when she knows her home, along with her sister, her husband, and her son, will be under attack by Xal'atath, who's literally said she's going to kill them, and that she can't be there. Because if she goes too close to the Sunwell, it will all go wrong. So we're seeing an Alleria who is quite ready to give in, if it will protect those who she loves the most. Her son, husband, and sister absolutely count as that. That is exactly what Xal'atath wants. However, there's more plot to happen. Artor still wants his mum's help, so he plays the ultimate card he has, Sylvanas.
If you won't help, I'll ask Sylvanas.
Absolutely not. You'd risk your soul in the maw only to have her refuse.
Vereesa thinks she'd return to defend Silvermoon.
Vereesa! Always saw the best in her, even when it was brutally clear what our sister had become.
Illyrie's retort here is more right than most people know. Alleria wasn't actually here for this event, this was before she returned to the canon. It took place back before Sylvanas had taken just one black pill too many. She reconnected with Vereesa, and it all went down at Garrosh's trial at the end of Mists of Pandaria. The two sisters concocted a plan to assassinate Garrosh. You have to remember that Sylvanas absolutely hates Garrosh, but also, so did Vereesa. Remember, it was Garrosh's attack in Theramore that killed her husband Ronan. And Vereesa was so hurt, she even considered leaving her whole life behind, including her children with Ronan, to join Sylvanas in the Undercity, just to be together with her family, with her sister, to have connection to her past. Sylvanas had a similar idea, and you have to know that this is all grounded in a genuine love between the two sisters, the two people who really have lost everything and are struggling. It's just that Sylvanas is a little bit extra. I mean, why have a geopolitically challenging yet fruitful relationship with your sister when you could instead murder her with the poison you cooked up for Garrosh and then resurrect her so you could co-lead the Forsaken with her together? Quite extreme, even though both of these moral failures do reveal real pain and real justification from both sisters. You get the sheer depth of Sylvanas' emptiness, and the lengths that she'll go to for meaning. You get Vereesa's grief. So yes, Vereesa sure can see the best in Sylvanas, as that little anecdote shows us. And this will actually be relevant shortly, not only for Vereesa, but also for Sylvanas, and that void of meaning. But let's get back to the story. A few sneaks later, we find out where Alleria's target, this little Shadow Lord man, is going to be headed. So, for us, it will have to be an MMO protagonist. That's because Venari has a cage. The cage will need to capture the Shadow Lord, but, well, Venari does need a favor. Worry not, I'll skip the chores. Once those are done, it's time for us to capture the Shadow Lord. First, we just need to weaken him, but it turns out someone already weakened him for me. How kind. MMO questing is a little bit silly, but what matters here is the interrogation, because in that interrogation, we see Alleria's pressure point pushed.
Champion, come lend me your... Where is Xal'atath? Where is her army?
I am the master here. You are nothing else.
I see it in your mind. The devouring host, lurking in the void. Whatever they call themselves, they can't hide from me.
Enough interference from you, fleshling.
Could Alleria have gotten more information from him? Yes, but she does get enough. Enough to lead her straight to Xal'atath and to the beginning of the Midnight Expansion. You may not know it right now, but shortly after we leave and a few things happen, all of this leads to her finding this ethereal opening a portal. She will follow the ethereal through the portal, and important things will happen. But before that, we have one more sister to track down.
I swear, Artor, sometimes you're as stubborn as your father.
And as rebellious as you.
Oh, so this is payback then? For all the times I disobeyed my own mother.
I wish I could have known her.
She was stern, but loving. She too wanted me to remain in Quel'Thalas, to defend its borders, as was our family's duty. But I wanted to leave the kingdom, so I did. And by the time I came home, Sylvanas took up the mantle of Ranger General after our mother died. And we all know how that turned out. If I had stayed,
You couldn't have known any of those things would happen.
Perhaps not, but they did happen, and they can't be undone. That holds true for my choices, and even more so for Sylvanas. Remember that when you go to see her.
Alleria is drawing a direct line between herself and Sylvanas here. Now, she left Quel'Thalas against her mother's wishes. She was basically the person in the family who was expected to become Ranger General, and this is even important with the social dynamics going on in Silvermoon. So, it's not just some little job role thing, it really mattered to their whole lineage. Obviously, though, she didn't do that. She left. She went to the Second War, and by the time she returned, her mum was dead, Sylvanas had taken up the mantle of Ranger General, and from then a lot of bad things happened, like Arthas plowing through and killing everyone. If Alleria had have stayed, maybe things would have been different. Maybe she could have fought off Arthas, or maybe she just would be dead too, and also a Forsaken. But what matters is the guilt's there, and she's telling Artor, remember that when you see Sylvanas, choices can't be undone. That doesn't mean that the person who made those choices is beyond understanding, but it's definitely a word of caution. And luckily for Artor, Venari can get us to the Maw. It's dangerous, potentially deadly, you could lose your soul, but when's that stopped a Windrunner? They do just kinda like going full send as a family. Alleria can't talk him out of it, she knows that. And with that, we enter the Maw. And while the jailer's gone, it's still not some pleasant holiday destination. It's still a horrible place. And somehow, the devouring host has followed us in. And when they follow us, they do what void creatures do. They corrupt souls, they spread chaos. Artor won't let that stand, and a few exterminations later, he hears something. He hears a melody echoing through the plains of torment. Now, given where we are, maybe we'd assume it's a trap, but it's one that feels calming and familiar. We follow it past woven baskets, past dead voidwalkers, and we see that someone has been busy, and that someone is Sylvanas Windrunner.
Lyrith? No. Artor, what are you doing here? When I last saw you, that sword would have been too heavy for you to lift.
It stayed that way for a time. Lorthamar was a harsh taskmaster, but his training regimen paid off. Now I use that strength to protect our world. I've come to ask you to do the same, as the Ranger General you once were.
A man grown, but still a child at heart. This is no place for such sentiment, Artor. But neither is it a place for the Void. Let's put Lorthamar's vaunted training to the test.
Two huge things to point out here. Xal'atath was Sylvanas' younger brother. He was murdered by orcs during the Second War while she was away. That is obviously brutal. That's horrible. And the fact that she sees him in Artor, even for a moment, kind of tells you a bit of what this place has done to her, how she's thinking about things, and how her character has developed. And then there's that line about the sword. Remember, the last time she saw Artor, he was a child. Now he's a paladin wielding a blade that she once watched him struggle to even lift. And that reinforces something. He's all grown up, but she wasn't there for any of it. And actually, that is just like how it is with Alleria, who also was not there for the majority of his growing up. This parallel will become relevant. Now, Sylvanas is characteristically Sylvanas about the whole thing. She calls it foolish that we came, but hey, now that we're here, we may as well help her clean up. So she sets off immediately, and she puts us to work. And this is where, just for a bit, we get to spend some time with Sylvanas actually just doing something. We see that she's methodical. We clear all the Devouring Host's forces. We scale the tower, take out their commander. It's methodical, it's efficient. It purely is Sylvanas. And is so in every way, because when it comes to the emotions, she is still not ready to open up. But equally, she hasn't sent us away either. So for us in Artor, it makes sense to just see where this thread goes. So we keep helping her out. She puts us to work gathering materials: soul thread, reeds, soul eater hide, Morat teeth. Sylvanas is building something. And while we work, Artor finally gets his conversation.
I expected the Maw to be alien, unknowable. But these structures are...
Familiar. I agree. I have seen past the veil of true death, Artor. There is more to the Shadowlands than it seems.
Why are you doing this, Sylvanas?
Isn't it obvious? This is my penance. But more than that, it is my purpose.
From what I've been told, half of the souls here would rather slay you than be granted peace.
You misunderstand. I do not grant them peace. I merely offer them a way forward. An offer which you have delayed me from making for long enough. Let's get to work, nephew.
Yeah, Artor expected the Maw to be alien and unknowable. Instead, it's structured, it's purposeful, and Sylvanas is here doing penance, though she doesn't call it penance. And of the souls we see, plenty would rather kill Sylvanas than accept her help. And that's kind of interesting, because that means she is not granting them peace. All she's offering them is a way forward. Whether they take it is their choice, and if what they need is to continue hating her for a bit, well, she seems to be okay with that as well. We see that she's not asking for forgiveness, she's not really seeking redemption. Basically, she's doing the work, day in, day out, soul after soul, because she can and because she should. We then go on to accompany her as she tries to calm 4 souls, each one a sin that she carries. We come to a Horde loyalist, still crying for the Horde, but trapped in the Maw. Sylvanas tells him that the Horde stands, and that's just what he needed to hear. A soul calls her a monster, a traitor, and attacks her. She just takes it. Whole, let them quell their rage. A soul who says, "You had me executed. You twisted Derek's mind." That's Derek Proudmoore, Jaina's brother, raised up into undeath by Sylvanas and nearly weaponized against his own family. Pretty much the most horrible thing one could do. Of course, this one would rather suffer for eternity than accept peace from Sylvanas. And Sylvanas is wise enough not to go and argue with them. And then finally, a soul screaming about Teldrassil. "Save the children." Sylvanas plays her lyre. The soul calls out to Elune and then vanishes. "I told him what he needed to hear," she says. just like with the Horde Loyalist, though with a bit of a different weight. We've gathered materials, we've calmed souls, and with all of that done, it is time for a ritual. A ritual called the Ceremony of the Sending. With the ritual done, Sylvanas has been helped, and with her being helped, she now seems willing to talk. So, we now get to the point.
Sylvanas, Azeroth is in danger. The people of Quel'Thalas need the Windrunners. They need you.
And the people of Teldrassil, how would they feel about my return?
You've done terrible things. I won't deny that. But what good is penance if it leads to more harm? I've seen what you do for the souls who are trapped here. I could vouch for you, help convince...
Your fellow paladins may call you the Redeemer, but I do not seek redemption. I have worn many titles myself. Ranger General, Dark Lady, Banshee Queen, War Chief. I set them all aside when I descended into the Maw. My place, my duty, is here, not among the living. You say Quel'Thalas needs a Windrunner. So go, Artor. Be a Windrunner.
Sylvanas. Very well. I think I understand.
Artor lays it all out. His aunt's visions are clear. Quel'Thalas is in danger. Silvermoon needs the Windrunner family, needs her. He's seen what she's able to do for the souls here, and because of that, he feels he could personally vouch for her. If, people did the obvious and say, why are you letting that utter maniac back into our society? Of course, Sylvanas isn't having any of it from him. She says, your fellow paladins may call you the Redeemer, but I do not seek redemption. She then lists the titles she's worn through her life: Ranger General, Dark Lady, Banshee Queen, War Chief, and she says she set them all aside when she descended into the Maw. Her place is here, and her duty is to the dead, not the living. Of course, that is very true in an immediate sense. She's got to help clean up the big mess that she played a role in. But also, it does make sense with some of her and the Forsaken, with her realizing that her duty is in fact to the dead, and that includes people who are in the Maw, but maybe are not from her own faction on Azeroth. She then says, you say Quel'Thalas needs a Windrunner, so go be a Windrunner. And then she walks out. But before we leave, Sylvanas pulls us aside, privately.
Thank you for tempering my nephew's exuberance. He's skilled, but tends to rush into danger. It runs in the family. Artor is correct about one thing. I am a Windrunner. And I have not forgotten where I came from. But as I told him, now is not the time for me to return to the world of the living. You have noticed, have you not? The Maw, the Shadowlands, all of it. The question that has plagued me since the jailer's demise. I know the truth of death better than most. This, it is too convenient, too ordered. I have made many foes on the path that brought me here. Most of them once called me an ally. I do not regret the choices I've made, nor do I bear ill will toward those who met me with their fangs bared. But know this, I cannot stop now. I must not stop now. Or all I have done will have been for naught. Return to Azeroth, fight the battles ahead of you. One day our paths will cross again.
For me, this is where it really lands. She thanks us for tempering Artor's exuberance, noting it runs in the family. She certainly is self-aware, and it does. In a way, Vereesa is the odd one out because she doesn't get involved in so many high-stakes shenanigans. But where she goes next is almost more interesting. It may even point to when she finally will return to the game in a proper sense, which of course won't really be during the Midnight expansion, or at least won't be about Xal'atath. She says she's noticed the state of the Maw since the Jailer's demise. And this is hugely important because for a lot of the time where she would have been involved with the Maw, well, yes, she was working with the Jailer and obviously was not seeing things straight. So she says this: I know the truth of death better than most. This, it is too convenient, too ordered. Something is wrong with the afterlife. And that something is what Sylvanas has decided to investigate. And remember, she says the words ordered. Obviously, those make us think of the Titans. Obviously, whenever we first went to the Shadowlands, what did we see? A bunch of architecture that kind of looked Titanic. And what is the final expansion of this saga? The Last Titan. I have to imagine that's when we'll see more Sylvanas, but I'll save the full breakdown of that for a video in the new year. For now, we clearly see a Sylvanas that isn't the war chief who burned Teldrassil, and isn't the ranger general who died defending Quel'Thalas. She's the new person who has went through all of those things and looked at the weight of her choices, has seemingly accepted them, and decided that the only path forward is through. Not a redemption or an absolution, but just doing the actual work, which I like. You know, Blizzard really could have fumbled this, and in many cases, I think they have kind of fumbled storylines, fumbled around some of their themes. But I actually think that they've done a good job here. They let Sylvanas be exactly who she's always been, but in new ways. She still is proud, driven, she refuses to bend, but the difference is what she's driving toward. And that's because she is older, she's got more experience, she is wiser, she's kinda began dealing with her shit. Then there's the little thing of behind the rocks, because if you look behind the rocks, I believe if you're a Horde loyalist, you may just see Nathanos. Yes, Nathanos there, listening to every word. Make of that what you will. Some think he's supposed to have a ghostly shader, which I'd say would make sense given he should be fairly dead. But who knows, maybe he's just there keeping tabs, maybe Sylvanas doesn't know. I'm sure we'll find out whenever she comes back. But speaking of coming back, it is now time for us to return to Tazavesh. And when we do, it's time for a discussion.
You spoke to her?
And she refused, just as you said she would.
Of course she did. Sylvanas is...
She's a bit like you, to be honest.
Excuse me?
Sorry, I didn't mean... I know that for a long time you feared that you would become like her. Led astray by a dark force that eclipsed you, becoming less and less yourself. But Mother, what I saw in her today, she's a windrunner, the same as you. Driven by a sense of sacrifice and duty, enduring personal hardship for the sake of those you wish to protect, and refusing to follow anyone's path but your own. I think you're more alike than you realize.
You always see the best in people, Artor. Vereesa truly was the one to raise you. I will have to thank her for that.
I'll pass it along to her for you.
Take care, my precious Artor. Guard Silvermoon well, as a windrunner.
Honestly, I love this conversation. Alleria asks if Sylvanas refused. Of course she refused. Artor goes to say that Sylvanas is a bit like you, to be honest. He says it, then he immediately apologizes, but everyone in the room knows he's right. Alleria doesn't take offense. She sees it as well. Driven by sacrifice, refusing to follow anyone's path but her own. And that is where I think we can apply a layer of analysis, because it is that nature that made Sylvanas so powerful, but also able to fall to the likes of a jailer, right? Obviously, Alleria shares many of these traits, and I think, as we're going to see, the way that she will just plow on forward relentlessly may just get her and us into a little bit of trouble. Alleria notes she'll really have to thank her sister for raising Artor. Artor says he'll pass it along, and with this line, we decide to go home.
In service. Please.
Oh, you will serve me. I went to a lot of trouble imbuing this bauble with untold power. Now yours shall be added.
For 100,000 years, I have planned for this moment. Let the way be opened to my prize.
There's a lot to unpack here, but I'll do it quickly. Take the line, "Let the way be open to my prize." That may sound oddly familiar to you. And if so, well, good. It should. That's because back in patch 8.1, Xal'atath called us the Opener of the Way. We have been her tool from the start, and this is just more of her having a bit of a gloat about it. Now, the Ethereal offers himself to her. I think he wants to help her out, be useful. Xal'atath obliges, but not in the way he expects. He consumes him into the Darkheart. She says, "I went to a lot of trouble imbuing this bauble with untold power. Now yours shall be added." Now this is where I've seen some criticism or confusion, right? Two expansions have built up. The essence of Galakrond, the arcane energies of Dalaran, the Black Blood, Dimensius, Locust Walker, all of these things feeding up the heart. And you seriously just needed some random ethereal to get slurped in to finish the job? No, I don't think it's that, actually. It's her being dramatic and at her most unhinged. And that final frame of her face just makes it clear. So yeah, she consumed that ethereal because she could, and because it amused her. Cruelty is part of the point. Remember those lines she said to Alleria that I replayed for you at the start of this video about pressuring her family? That's the Xal'atath, as a villain, not just some character that we all like to see in Twitter, that actually will matter for this story. Now, Alleria tries to intervene, but obviously she can't. We see that the void in her head is screaming so loud she is functionally paralyzed. All she can do is watch. But with all that, she raises her hand, the dark heart empties, and the sky tears open. Now, I've also seen people look at this and think, hang on, 2 expansions of slurping up all the power in the universe just for a portal. Well, remember, number one, this isn't just a portal. This is a kind of direct gateway to Voidstorm. Voidstorm being a planet, possibly her homeworld, that is going to serve as her staging point against Azeroth. It's also the fourth and final zone of the Midnight expansion. And of course, it's more than just that. All of that void energy is going to be dumped onto Azeroth. And that means that as of now, Alleria's fate is unknown. She is stranded on the other side of a portal, alone with the void screaming in her skull. So the Midnight expansion begins with her family not knowing where she is or what's happened to her. And if you understand just how dire all of this is for her as a being, then I think you'll understand a lot of Midnight way more. We've already seen it be established how she is basically so through with Xal'atath, so done with all this shit, that she is totally willing to just give in and fight fire with fire if it will be enough to allow her to protect the people who she loves. That's always the kind of pressure point that the Void will use against people. As an example, it's not too dissimilar to how the Void got at Neltharion, aka Deathwing, because for him it got to the stage where he just needed more power to solve his problem, and the Void was only happy enough to offer it. Of course, in the process, he gave himself up, and that is what Alleria risks doing. And it's quite the risk, since she's now trapped on a void planet, completely alone, maybe with Xal'atath whispering in her ear. And if Zal ever wanted leverage over her, well, she's got it. Silvermoon in flames, the light consuming its defenders. We still don't know everything that we saw, but obviously we are about to find out. But back in Dornagal, Vereesa's waiting. We return. We don't know any of that stuff has happened, neither does Artor, so we just have a chat.
You've seen them both then. I'm sorry you couldn't sway them.
I may never fully understand why my mother or Sylvanas choose to walk alone, but I can respect their decisions. I can't imagine what each of them has gone through. My own life has been tranquil by comparison.
As was Alleria's wish, that you enjoyed the halcyon youth that we never could.
A wish you granted 1,000 times over. She wanted to thank you for that.
Yes, well, perhaps one day she'll thank me in person. Now come, Artor. Quel'Thalas awaits.
And with that, the warning ends similar to how it began, with the family that Xal'atath plans to weaponize against itself and against the entire world. That is the story going into the next expansion. A perfect follow-up to this video, though, if you just want to see what is Xal'atath's story, right? To get all the fragments that have been strewn across for ages in one big video, then what's this one next? It's an absolute banger, and if this has got you excited for the expansion, I think it will too as well.